1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war.
If you want to see the finish of this match, subscribe now.
Turn notifications on.
C2 Wrestling. Happy 4th of July. It is the 4th. It is Independence Day. WWE is SmackDown. Not really a themed episode. I feel like back in the day, they would really kind of theme episodes around a lot of holidays. But because it is 4th of July and we are in this new regime, it is a taped episode. Back in the day, they would be live. This would be happening. But nowadays, they get to spend some time with their families, and that's all great. Taped episode of SmackDown. A couple of things to touch on tonight. Where do you want to get started?
Let's start with how we are lucky that we're actually in person I have Cody Rhodes' entrance right outside my window.
Me too, right
and
now.
You have Cody Rhodes' entrance right outside your window.
Yeah. It is going crazy right now. The fireworks are going off. And I mean, hey, I get it. It's 4th of July. You expect it to each is their own. But let's stop.
Lame.
Let's stop. Yeah, I'm not like a crazy firework guy. It's cool for a minute. It's cool for kids. I get it. But we don't need them.
Roy Keane's got a great quote. And he said that it's the 3 most overrated things, I think. I forget the third. But he said smiling and fireworks.
Yeah, those are 2 good ones, to be honest.
Yeah, most overrated things.
Yeah, and somebody smiling at fireworks. Yeah.
Dumb. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Stupid. But let's start with what opened the show.
Absolutely. What opened the show? I totally forget. Drawing a blank.
Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton,
Drew McIntyre, and then of course the return of Drew McIntyre. I stayed away from spoilers. Again, this was a taped show. I was able to stay away, but the only thing that was in my feed throughout the week that I couldn't escape was Drew coming back. So I did know that was happening sooner than I thought it would. I didn't think we were going to get Drew for SummerSlam, to be honest. I thought he was going to get a little bit more time off, but I think it's good. I think Drew should be back. I just don't know where he really fits in. Drew is still in that slot of like, man, this guy deserves more, deserves a championship run, deserves a world title at the very least. But like Cena, Cody, Gunther's the world champion, the Money in the Bank. Where does Drew fit into everything? They have him slated now next week, Saturday Night's Main Event, to take on Randy Orton, which is a great match that fits the bill for Saturday Night's Main Event, which has got that match, LA versus Seth, Gunther versus Goldberg. Is that all that's announced for Saturday Night's Main Event so far?
I think. I'd assume they had a women's match, but I don't know.
But they might not because Evolution's the next day. But regardless, is a mystery. 3 to 4 matches, maybe 5 on Saturday Night's Main Event. I'll take it. I think they'll add one more match. Maybe we'll get that on Monday. But Drew versus Randy fits the bill. You got to give the win to Drew, right? He just came back. Maybe you're spicing him up a little bit. Maybe this helps the Randy Orton heel turn that might be coming. But I wanted to bring up that heel turn in particularly because Night of Champions, it was very, Orton's showing signs here. He's going to turn heel. And that's the night on Friday Night SmackDown. It was like that never happened at Night of Champions. So a little wishy-washy, but I still think that eventual Orton heel turn, it's coming.
Yeah, honestly, I don't want to say I'm upset that good Lord, the fireworks may as well be.
Yeah, it was hard for me to talk over the fireworks I had going on. Yeah.
Little upsetting he returned on a taped show. Not that he was gone for super long, but just, I don't know, I like Drew and it was pretty cool to see him back already. So
you could have had him honestly just return next week and made the match one day prior. Like, what are they going to do next week? That was like, you have to make it tonight instead of next week.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just another week of announcing Orton on the show to sell tickets. I don't know. I would have said before they made this match for Saturday Night's Main Event, I would have said Drew Orton SummerSlam would make a lot of sense. It would kind of fit the bill. I know it's a matchup that a few years ago we saw plenty of, but now it kind of feels fresh because it's almost as if it never happened. It happened during a time that we've kind of all wiped from our brains anyway.
Yeah.
So it feels like they've really barely faced. Drew might be the breaking point for turning Randy heel. And I don't want to like completely correlate it to like Karrion Kross and characters like that who bring out the heel in someone and finally get them to turn. But they've been teasing this Randy heel turn so long. And then tonight on SmackDown, he mentions that he couldn't pull the trigger. He couldn't pull the trigger. So it's not impossible that with the McIntyre feud, we get maybe on Saturday he doesn't pull the trigger again, or next Saturday, that is. He doesn't pull the trigger again, and Drew beats him by cheating. Or maybe he does pull the trigger. Drew brings that out of him that he does pull the trigger, and he's not like straight up heel right away, but he's now pulling the trigger, and then he will soon pull the trigger on a baby face, say Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes, yeah.
And turn face. So if it isn't Drew that's going to get Randy to pull the trigger, it would just have to be Cody, and it feels like they would have did that already.
Yeah, you kind of took it out of my mouth. I can see both those scenarios happening where Orton rather, doesn't hit the punt yet again, or he does, but he's not quite heel, and then eventually hits it on a Cody Rhodes. It almost has to happen on an uber baby face. He's not really in a feud with Jay, and Jay is kind of taking a small step down off of his babyface run. It's really Cody right now. How do you do that? Are we going to get Cody Orton again post SummerSlam? Is that the idea? Is Cody going to win this championship? Is Cena going to go the next 4 or 5 months without it, trying to get it back? It's starting to make me believe that we're just going to get a trilogy. That's how Cena's going to end. It's another Cody Cena match out there in December, and that's how it's going to end. But I don't know. Maybe Orton does turn heel here, and Cody gets tied up in that, and then Cena gets involved in something else. I love Orton being around, though. You know, there was a little bit of time where he was away post Backlash, you know, and then obviously his Mania match got snuffed a little bit with Owens. Still a great moment with Joe Hendry. But I'm just glad Orton's involved. You know, Orton's one of those guys, obviously one of the GOATs, one of the vets. Who knows how much longer he's got left in the tank when it really comes down to it. So I want as much Orton as we can get. You are completely correct. It came to mind to me. I don't know if you can hear mine or yours. I don't know what's going on, but the fireworks are literally hard to talk over right now.
Yeah.
But Orton versus Drew, this is a match that's happened before, but it is far enough away. We've said it with Rhea and Liv as an example. When you have two people feud or have matches together for so long, you got to give them a break. And not only have they had that kind of break, that it does come from an era of like wiped memories. So it is what it is. Put it on Saturday night's main event. Have it open the show, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm not against that at all. I just had to put the second headphone in, and it sounds weird having both in. Like, I don't know if I'm talking loud or not.
Yeah.
But the fireworks are legit that loud right outside my window. One thing I did want to actually ask you about with this promo, it was kind of interesting that they made it a point for Orton to really reference not just the fact that he couldn't pull the trigger, but the fact that Cody could.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very interesting. It could be something, it could be nothing. It could be mainly to put emphasis on Orton struggling to pull the trigger. Or it could be the breadcrumbs that Cody's willing to do whatever it takes to get his championship back. And I'm not saying they're going to do that double turn or Cody will be the one that turns heel and is facing a babyface Orton and a babyface whatever. I'm not saying they will, but the breadcrumbs are still there. It's still a possibility. You know, I think it's just classic. You put a lot of things on the table to steer people multiple different ways, and you still have your main focus. I still think Cody will be a babyface, but I thought it was interesting that Orton pointed out that you were able to pull that trigger and I wasn't.
It is interesting, especially because it comes off the back of not that long ago, WrestleMania 41. Cody couldn't pull the trigger against John Cena, and now he can all of a sudden. You know, maybe it kind of pulled some dark side out of Cody Rhodes. You know, I look at a lot of storylines, especially under this Triple H regime, as like, you know, here's Cody Rhodes. You know, he's the guy right now. He's the main focus, and like they're creating all these pathways, you know, and they can go any which way, and they might never reference him not pulling the trigger or pulling the trigger again, or they do, and they can go one which way with it. It does, if anything, to me, kind of set up more of a double turn down the line. And the counterpart to that is they've been showing Cena having like second thoughts, you know? So I can see them continuing the Cena second thoughts thing and Cody not really showing signs as much as Cena is, because they want that turn to be a surprise. But man, it could happen. That could be the bigger story in all this. And if that's the route they go, The Rock is going to take credit at the end of it. Yeah.
He's going to go like this.
Yeah. That's exactly what he's going to do. Yeah.
If they do it, if they do it at SummerSlam just so we can be there and say that we saw it.
Absolutely.
As Batista now makes his way to the fucking ring right outside my window.
That's what I got to say to all the fireworks going on is exactly that. But we'll jump around the show a little bit. I forget exactly which segment came next. I'm kind of all over the place with it.
Yeah,
but we did get a couple matches announced tonight. Two of them for Evolution. We have Tiffany is a mystery. Tiffany Stratton out to the ring. So is Queen of the Ring, Jade Cargill. Tiffany brings out the fireworks going off right there, like literally startled the shit out of me. I had to pause for a second. But Tiffany Stratton brings Trish Stratus out to the ring. Now, I lied earlier. That is something I also seen on Twitter throughout the week. So I did obviously know Trish was going to be here. And I get it. It's Evolution, 25 years. Trish is a legend, absolutely. Trish has become like the returnee of the women. The guys do that a lot. I don't care, though. I really don't care. It's kind of the same boat I'm in with Io and Rhea of like, it's just lazy booking. Tiffany gets to pick her opponent. Yeah, so does Io. Like, I don't care. It just doesn't do anything for me. I really think this Evolution show, for a couple reasons. The booking of it, again, getting to choose your opponents for world title matches. We know they're not losing the titles. I guess Io could, but like we're going right into SummerSlam pretty much 2 weeks after this. So it's in a bad placement. Plus, it's got lazy booking. The show itself is kind of fan service to me. The people want an Evolution. So they're kind of shoehorning it in because the people have wanted it for a while now. I think it would have fit better maybe 2 weeks after SummerSlam, 2 weeks before Clash in Paris, or just any other time of the year, if I'm being honest. I feel like they are stacking it with Saturday Night's Main Event, because they're labeling it a PLE, but it's kind of the same as a Saturday Night's Main Event, where it's kind of just an exhibition.
Yeah, I have two main thoughts on it, on tonight's matches and whatnot. There's really just two properly built matches. One hasn't been announced yet, but at least Jade versus Naomi is an actual story that's been going on for months. Like,
sure,
it's a Mania rematch that they haven't faced since, and they've still been feuding, and it's not super drawn out. You would think by now. I mean, the feud really started at Elimination Chamber. If you were to say that they'd be facing, 5 months later, I'd be like, Jesus Christ, but it really doesn't feel like that at all.
No.
This, and then even though I don't care about it, the triple threat for the Intercontinental Championship has at least been a story since right before WrestleMania, is essentially. Those two are like the only two that actually have stories and good. Like, great. That's how it should be. The title matches being the champion is just choosing their opponent further adds to your point that this is just like a one night only extravaganza. Like, this isn't being treated by them as like an actual PLE, that just fucking randomly you're having an event where your two champions just choose their opponents out of nowhere. And they're just like, yeah, I want to face this person just because wanted to. That's it. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, Jay just won Queen of the Ring. I don't care. I want to face Trish. Like, what?
And
that is like, so lazy.
It's so, and also just choose like Stone Cold or somebody too. Like, you can just choose anybody. Yeah, like
I choose Mae Young.
I'm going to face The Rock. Where me and The Rock are going to have a match. Like, the women can choose whoever they want.
Yeah,
and then
I choose
also
Linda.
Yeah. I think a lot a lot of them want to. But
Tiffany probably not.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah. On top of the other title matches, the women's tag titles. Of course, Liv gets injured. Roxanne finds herself in that match. And like, I guess you can make a little bit of an argument that there's somewhat of a story with Alexa and Charlotte. I don't care about it though. They haven't done anything to make me care about that. And then yet again, the women, when there's finally some sort of women's tag teams like the Secret Service, we're getting makeshift women's tag teams in the women's tag title matchup. Good God, get rid of those titles at this point. They clearly cannot book them. They're cursed. I don't know what it is. I don't think Charlotte and Alexa win the belts anyways. But why? I mean, I don't want to say why, because I get it. You want Charlotte on the card, you want Alexa on the card. Let them face each other then. Put Piper and Alba in the match instead. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Or have them face just two other people in a fucking specialty tag match, whatever, where they're building chemistry, like actually establishing themselves as a team. Like it truly, I mean, this has been going on for a few years, but this is exactly how things were from like all the early, like late 2000s to early 2010s, how Vince treated the WWE tag titles, like the pennies era, you know, and a bit of the unified era where it was just like, all right, now Drew and Cody are a team. All right, now Jericho and Big Show are a team. Like, yeah, some of them end up working, but it's just like, all right, we'll throw Kofi and Evan Bourne together now, and all right, well, let's just throw these two people together now. Like, for an event that's this magnitude, you have all of these titles for the women. You have legit names that you can be using. I understand the Battle Royal to get names on. I get it. You could probably do 30. You could probably do more than 20. Why is the tag team not actual tag teams?
It's baffling to me. It really is baffling to me. And yeah, we'll get an NXT team in there, sure, whatever. But like, I just don't really care for it, honestly. The only match on this card that is somewhat enticing me thus far is Jordan Grace versus JC Jane. And that's probably the moment of the show, is Jordan Grace likely winning the NXT championship.
I'm interested in Naomi Jade, no holds barred.
Oh, yes, sure. I forgot that was announced as well, because that is the only one with story. And I don't want to say I'm not interested in Rhea versus Io, because that's still going to be a fine match. But again, it's just lazy booking. You know, it's all just lazy booking.
And again, as we've said, we love Io and we love Rhea.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about matches. It's about stories. And
it's not.
This is just not a compelling story. I mean, we've harped on it plenty, so I don't think we need to, keep beating the dead horse. But I am excited for Naomi Jade to kind of put a cap on the entire conversation. To me, of the announced matches, Jordan Grace going for the NXT championship, that is cool, is interesting. Even more interesting considering the winner faces Masha Slamovich at Slammiversary in a title versus title. Yep. So that's kind of added to that. But to me, it's like, if we're like ranking them right now of the announced matches, the Jade Naomi match is at the top. And then there's a little bit of a gap. Then the NXT women's title match. And then there may as well be a crater.
Yeah.
And then it's the rest of the matches. And it is simply due to WWE has told me I shouldn't care about them from the way that they're treating this event.
Yeah. And again, it's shoehorned into a bad time frame. It's in a bad placement. The build has been lazy. What do you want from us? I don't have to care about it. You got to make me care about it. And at the moment, one match, Jade Naomi, maybe two matches, Jordan Grace and JC Jane, is not enough to make me care. I don't know. I can got much else to say about it. Maybe we even get one more match announced. We still got another 2 shows before the event, so they might add one more match into the card. Maybe we get something of value. Touching just one more on Tiffany and Trish too. Like, it's just another throwaway. Like, I don't know. Tiffany, great for Tiffany. She gets a Trish match. Like, that's kind of become an accolade in itself for the women to take on a legend like that. But like, are we supposed to believe Trish is going to win the title from Tiffany? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. But we did.
Just also, if this is Trish's retirement, because it's supposed to be like her final year as well. I know Cena's obviously is much bigger. If this is our last match, then like, you should have had her on a few fucking weeks ago and established something and made something out of this.
Yeah, well, a few weeks ago, you could have had her on ages ago and like long-term story. But this. But we did touch a little bit on the women's tag team title match for Evolution, but there was a lot of tag team wrestling itself on Friday Night SmackDown. And I actually really liked how they set up tonight's 8-man tag team match. The Wyatt Six took on one member of each of the remaining tag teams of the Street Profits, Motor City Machine Guns, Angel Garza, and Humberto Carrillo, and then DIY. I like the setup for that. Wyatt Six ultimately gets the win as Gargano did not help Chris Sabin. Wyatt Six next week, they take on the Profits again for the tag titles. That makes me think they very well just win the belts next week. We still could get one more like ultimate everybody interferes, and then out comes Nick Aldis, and he makes it official for SummerSlam. Titles are on the line. We'll hang them from a ladder. We'll do whatever with them. I don't know. If the Wyatt Six are just going to win the belts next week, I don't want it. I want it at SummerSlam.
I just will be pissed if the titles aren't on SummerSlam.
That's my point. Yes, that's my point. Is like if you're going to have them win next week, and they can have the Wyatt Six defend them at SummerSlam, then sure, and that could be the multi-man match. But then that kind of leads you to believe the Wyatt Six are just going to retain. You might as well save that bigger-ish moment for SummerSlam itself at this point.
Yeah, I'm just like, I think my main focus is like the SmackDown tag division has been so good, and I texted you. I was like, you think Raw writers are watching this and they're like, what are the tag champs doing on the show?
Yeah, why do they have all these guys on TV?
What the fuck's going on?
Well, these guys don't know what they're writing. These guys
why are they using all these tag teams? This is terrible. It's like, it's fucking good. Do it. Like, you guys have the fucking teams to do it. They better do something for SummerSlam. My hope for a Fraxium SummerSlam match has definitely gone down. We'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
But this match was a prime example. You know, in like sports arguments, it's very big in MMA, UFC, where people will be like debating something, like debating a performance, and they'll go back and like they'll check the box score. And then there's times where it's like you can't look at the numbers. The numbers aren't fair. Perfect example that hits close to home. You look at the Super Bowl, you're like, all right, it was 40-22. It's not that bad. You look at Mahomes' numbers. It's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. No, you had to watch the game. Like, if you watched the game, you got the full.
Yeah. He just got whooped, baby.
Yeah, exactly. You get the full grasp of it. Those numbers are not telling at all. You know, they tell a different story. That would have been me reading Chris Sabin gets pinned in this 8-man tag match.
Yeah.
Compared to watching it and seeing the story and seeing all the layers that are going on with the tag team division. If I, box score watched this and I was just like, my fucking machine guns, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I would have had a much different reaction compared to actually watching it, enjoying the match for one, and for two, enjoying the story that they're telling, continuing to tell. We talked about it on the podcast. We talked about it on the Raw post show. They not only need to shake up the tag teams to help out Raw, but they just need Raw to actually care about the tag team division.
Yeah, absolutely. To kind of play off your football reference, I guess, watching the show, we got to see all this kind of pull out the starting DBs for the Eagles. That's when you kind of know the tables are turning a little bit. Exactly. But when you read the score, you don't quite see that go down.
Yeah.
But, it is crazy. There's not really like an NXT team that I can be like, hey, put them on Monday Night Raw. They don't really have a tag team right now. If they didn't split up, say like Stax and Tony D, I can be like, all right, you might as well just put Stax and Tony D on Monday Night Raw right now. But they split them up. So the only thing you can do is get a SmackDown team on Monday Night Raw. They can always come up with a new tag team, sure. But again, there's established tag teams all over the company. You might as well just shift a team or two over, some sort of shakeup, some sort of draft. I don't know what to call it. But it wasn't the only tag team match tonight, the 8-man tag. You mentioned Fraxium. They took on another newly formed tag team. Seems like they're sticking around. Rey Fenix and Andrade in a pretty great tag team match. That was very fun to watch. Phoenix and Andrade, it was all over commentary, how much they're connected. They're meshing off of just having a couple matches together, and they do. They do flow pretty well together. They get another big win over Fraxium. It does lead me to believe Fraxium is probably not going to be the team to win the tag titles that soon. They might get in the match at SummerSlam if there is a multi-man match. Probably don't pull out the win. But now you got to add Rey Fenix and Andrade into the mix. So now what do you do? You know, and we're still forgetting Pretty Deadly. I'm sure they're not going to be back for a little bit, but SmackDown's tag division is just stacked. What are you going to have, a 6 tag team match at SummerSlam? It's too much.
And that's not even all the teams that they have.
Yeah, it's not.
They're still because obviously there's Pretty Deadly.
Mm-hmm.
There's Solo's faction where you'll legit have 2 teams in there. Like,
yeah,
there's fucking teams galore on SmackDown. It's just, to me, it's just like frustrating because I love tag team wrestling. I fucking love tag team wrestling.
Yep.
And it's just like Raw has some teams that they could do this too if you just put the time and care into the stories, and maybe them being on the Judgment Day again will lead to that. You know, I will believe it when I see it, but I don't know. Fraxium, on the other hand, they almost, I don't want to say they got set up for failure. I'm not going to like jump to that conclusion or anything like that. But what a mistake to not just put them on Raw.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is. I do like that they're kind of in the spot of like they're being utilized left and right. Yeah. And they've won a lot of matches, but they're still like the newer, fresher team. They don't need to win the tag belts immediately. The Guns came in and they won the tag belts in week 2 of debuting. They're also the Motor City Machine Guns and they're veterans, and it makes sense. And like they only have so much time left, perhaps. You know, Fraxium's got 15-year plus careers left to go. They'll get their tag title run in eventually, but it does lead me to believe they just weren't thinking when they put them on SmackDown instead of Monday Night Raw. Because, you know, when you got a guy now, too, like JD McDonough's back, Finn Balor, those 2 guys against Fraxium, that could tear the house down.
It honestly, it genuinely makes me feel that they were like, we know they're not going to win it. Like, you know, they're not going to go on some crazy win streak or whatever, which is fine. That is okay. Like, as long as you're on TV is the main thing. It genuinely makes me think they were like, if we put them on Raw, we're just not going to care about them. So just put them on SmackDown where we actually care about tag teams and they'll be in the mix. But you do kind of set it up pretty well. I would like fantasy book, if you're not going to do a shakeup, a trade where the New Day get traded for Fraxium and it just 100%. Freshens things up a little bit, helps out the SmackDown tag division with just a new team since they've all been feuding with each other. Also helps out Raw getting a fresh face in there. But at the same time, it's also a little tough because you have Grayson Waller into this story.
New Day mix,
New Day. Where a piece of me is almost like, what if this is pure fantasy booking? But what if they did do a trade where it was like Waller and the New Day? Waller works out a deal with Aldis,
the New Day.
Yeah, with Aldis and Pierce, and he goes with the New Day for, say, Fraxium and
LA Knight.
Guns. Or actually, LA Knight makes even more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
He fucking works something out that way, and that's how Waller and Theory split, and it. You know, Theory feels like abandoned, whatever, and he gets his babyface run, whatever. This is obviously pure fantasy booking, but like Raw needs it.
Yeah, Raw needs it. You know, I don't want to miss out on the big babyface pop Theory's going to get when he gets that win over Waller. So I'm looking to see that play out. But man, you know, I'm loving the new Solo faction, which we'll touch on in a moment because they end up getting involved tonight. But maybe it's time to start having JC Mateo and Tala Tonga team up. And I don't know where Tama Tonga is and Tonga Loa, but you know, maybe it's time to get them in the actual tag division as well. Because then you just have more fresh matchups. You know, you can put them on the SmackDown tag division and you can send 2 teams over to Monday Night Raw and you kind of break even on it. But it does then lead me to bring up tonight's main event, which was a little bit of a makeshift tag team. Fatu and Jimmy are at odds until last week. They kind of dapped up, if I'm not mistaken, right? And now they're kind of boys, it looks like. So Fatu and Jimmy team up to take on Solo and JC Mateo. All hell breaks loose after the match. Tala Tonga, JC Mateo, Tonga Loa, they all come out, attack Fatu. I like to see it. I don't quite know where they're going. Like, is Fatu going to get some boys together? You know, is that the route? Is Tama Tonga going to return eventually? And maybe he kind of sides with Fatu. And then maybe Tonga Loa kind of sides with Tama Tonga. You know, like I don't quite know where they're going. It does lead me to believe they're setting up, obviously, either a rematch, Solo versus Fatu. If it is a rematch, it probably gets a stipulation, or some sort of multi-man, like 6-man tag at SummerSlam. I would be hyped if we got some sort of like even a no holds bar, last man standing, steel cage, something between Fatu and Solo at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get Fatu off for a week or two. You know, that writes him off to just cut a little bit of the time for this story to get it to SummerSlam. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe the SmackDown before SummerSlam, the night before night one, maybe that SmackDown you get like Fatu versus JC Mateo 1-on-1 or whatever, and it's WrestleMania 40 all over again, where if Fatu wins, no one's there. It's even odds. If Mateo wins, it's Bloodline rules or whatever. It's, you know, what the fuck was the match Roman and Jay had at the Rumble that they just completely lied about the rules of the match?
Same thing with Roman
the
and Triple H at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It was a singles match, but then it was all promoted as no DQ or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, maybe the SmackDown right before there's a match that makes the stipulation, whatever. I do think we get Fatu versus Solo. I mean, we're obviously going to get it at some point. I would assume it's at SummerSlam. Not that this is a dig at the rest of the group. I just don't see the rest of the group getting a match on SummerSlam. Like it's not like that, I'm not trying to like throw shade. I like all the guys, you know, and I like the faction.
It's the way the story plays out, though. It's not like a diss to them saying they don't deserve it, but it's the way the story plays out. The singles match makes more sense.
On top of it, Solo deserves a solo match. He deserves a singles match, even if he is losing, you know, whatever.
We're taking that all.
Yeah, he deserves it. You know, they should have a one-on-one match. So, I think that's the end goal. This was obviously like the writing off of Fatu. There's one thing from SmackDown that I'm surprised you haven't brought up yet that I do want to touch on.
What's that? What am I missing?
It was a short segment. I think we got the official seeds for another SummerSlam matchup. Granted,
what am I missing?
Granted, there's been a little bit of friction.
Okay,
I think we got the seeds for a SummerSlam match.
Aleister Priest?
I think we may get Aleister Priest at SummerSlam.
Yeah, that's I was gonna just mention just like footnotes. We got again the tag title match next week, and then it looks like we got Priest or not Priest. We got Aleister versus R-Truth, but it's really to set up an eventual Aleister Priest feud matchup. I really, really, really hope that match doesn't get snubbed and makes it onto SummerSlam. If you kind of map out 7 matches each night, you got 14 matches. One of them can be Aleister versus Priest. But there's so many titles. There's so much talent right now. If they were to snub a match and put it on SmackDown the night before, it might be that one. But, man, there's been reports that they're high on Aleister right now. So hopefully he's going to get that moment. I would love that personally. Priest versus Aleister, sign me up.
Yeah, it really just comes down to kind of like, I don't want to say some of those fringe matches, but like we look at the tag titles. If we're going off WrestleMania, they're only going to put one tag title match on the show. Yeah. The other one will be on either the SmackDown before or the Monday Night Raw right after. Well, the titles are on Judgment Day. It seems now Dom AJ is going to happen at SummerSlam now.
Yeah.
Finn's just going to be completely left off the SummerSlam card. I don't know. That's hard to believe. Yeah. You know, I would assume Finn has a tag match. So it's like, all right, if the Raw tag titles are on, you'd assume the SmackDown tag titles are on. You try piecing it together. It's like, if Becky's still the Intercontinental Champion, Becky's going to be on the fucking show. Like, you start piecing it together where, like, you get a little worried. The numbers start to creep up there where you're like, damn, don't snub this match. I know it might fall under the, like, hey, but it'll get 20 minutes as the main event of SmackDown compared to 7. I get it. And there's some times where I agree with that. I want these guys on SummerSlam.
I want them on SummerSlam big time. You mentioned like Becky, the IC title. That's a feud that's being built for months now, so that's unlikely to get snubbed in comparison to some other matches. It is tough. You can play it out, though. Maybe, again, the fall of Judgment Day has to happen sooner or later. And maybe Liv being hurt puts kind of a halt on that, because they probably want Liv involved for the breakup of the Judgment Day. So it does lead me to believe they're going to extend the lifespan of the Judgment Day. I could theorize and say, maybe on Saturday night, Dom inadvertently screws Finn and JD and they lose the tag title. So then on Sunday night, Finn screws Dom and he loses the IC title. But again, I don't know if they're going to go that far with the breakup without Liv. She's kind of a focal point of everything going on. I really hope, though, for Damien's sake, and more so Alistair, because he's kind of the one that I want to get that big moment, that big push. Alistair wins that match at SummerSlam and then hopefully finds himself in at least a mid-card title feud after the fact. I can see him and Alistair, or him and Damien, got to keep mixing them up. I can see them going 2 to 3 times, though. Maybe not just at SummerSlam, but middle of the card, night 1 or night 2, I think that fits perfectly. That's a fun matchup. It's a fresh matchup on 2 guys that are great talents. Priest is still over, despite maybe he's not at the height he was during the Judgment Day. People want to see Alistair. How does that not make the card?
Yeah, and maybe I'm asking for too much, but try to have it on the card when it finally gets dark out, because I don't want Alistair.
Yeah, Alistair's the fucking match. Yeah.
It's fucking
daytime. It's like Bray coming out at 31 or whatever, or 32.
This is looks.
No, why they got candles lit? That's weird.
That to me, though, before we get out of here, that to me is that's fresh. That gets me excited. I'm pumped for SummerSlam. I'm pumped for next weekend, to go to those shows. Not to the level of excitement that I have for SummerSlam weekend, but that's a matchup where I'm like, yeah, I want to see Fatu versus Solo. That's still cool. I've enjoyed the story, whatever, but it's not fresh. It's not completely brand new. It's also not kind of out of left field. I wasn't really thinking Aleister Black, Damian Priest, 2 seemingly pretty strong baby faces would be the route that they go. So it has me even more intrigued, especially from this short little segments that we've been getting. So that's something where I'm I'm bought in on that. Don't put it where, it may pass me by. Give it the big shine it deserves.
Yeah, give it the big shine it deserves. We talked a lot of potential matchups for Evolution, Saturday Night's Main Event, SummerSlam. Stay tuned for the final match of July 4th, where I take on all my neighbors because they're still lighting on fireworks. But until next time, C2 Wrestling, you guys got to stay subscribed, turn on notifications. We got a lot of content coming next week and the weeks following. Again, we'll be there live at SummerSlam. Let us know if you're going to be there. We want to meet some fans of you. So let us know in the comments down below. You got anything else you want to add?
I'm going to be live. I'll be most likely at Saturday Night's Main Event, most likely at Evolution, maybe doing a little vlog. I also am meeting one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Goldberg?
Not Goldberg. I will be meeting a great wrestler that will be a part of the vlog that you will see as soon as it drops. So you got to be subscribed. A little birdie told me that you're not subscribed, and that makes you a coward.
A big time coward.